No, I have not.
Now, I have seen The Flying Nun.
Yeah, I was going to say that
Sally
next.
Peters,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Oh, me too.
It's dating me a little bit. I saw it in reruns as a kid, of course.
When did that come out?
I don't know, it was in the 70s, 60s or 70s.
Yeah, I remember.
Gidget in the 60s, right?
Yeah, 1967. I can remember it like coming on like it's a new show. I mean, I don't remember any of the episodes. I just remember her outfit. Sally Fields. Yeah.
Yeah, Sally Fields, she's The Flying Nun.
1967. 3 seasons. The sitcom.
So, tonight's work is based off the philosophies of Rudolf Steiner. Now, we've never done a show specifically dedicated to him, and he will come up in this, and maybe we'll get into him deeper in some other show, because we have done Israel Gardy, we've done Crowley, we've done Hubbard, we've done all these, Jack Parsons, John Dee, Nostradamus, Edward Kelly. We've touched on so many of these occultists.
Casey.
Frameshift drive charging.
Edgar Casey wasn't an occultist.
He wasn't?
No.
4, 3,
Talking about occultist.
Okay.
1,
Rudolf Steiner, he was a Christian. Rudolf Steiner is an occultist we have not discussed, but he was very fundamental in occultism in the 20th century. And as I said, we will dedicate a specific show to him in the future. But as for today, we're just talking about his philosophy. And maybe we'll even wind up talking about him tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see. Poopins, how you been? Poopins, been a minute. Good to see you too. J. Carr, Gidget and Moondoggy. There was one time I saw a bunch of Gidget movies. I don't know if it was a marathon. I don't know what I was doing or why I was watching these Gidget movies. But in the movies, Gidget was famous, and everybody knew who she was.
Okay.
And in the TV show, she's just like a regular girl. And I think that specifically Gidget Goes Hawaii is where she's supposed to be like world famous for some reason.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Gidget. I'm surprised they haven't revived Gidget.
I am too. I'm sure it's probably next. I can't think of anything else on their own.
It seems like something that would be,
Absolutely.
You have to find the right person, but
yeah, you can carry it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems to me like if you found somebody who was charismatic enough, you'd definitely redo it.
Sure.
There's no reason. There's so many different people who play Gidget over the years anyway.
Ariana Grande, probably, little shit.
I don't know if she's an actress.
Yeah, I'm sure she is. They're all triple threats. They get famous, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do up on stage? You're basically acting, right? And she does like full performances,
Yeah, singing and acting are a little different.
Yes.
Just because you're good at one does not mean you're good at the other.
That's true. Like I said, most of them people are triple threats. Sing, dance, and act.
Right. So, let's get into tonight's topic, everybody. Anthroposophy. Now, see, I practiced so many times saying this, and I still screw up. Anthroposophy is a philosophy founded in the early 20th century by esotericist Rudolf Steiner that postulates the existence of an object, intellectually comprehensible spiritual world accessible to human experience. Followers of anthroposophy aim to develop mental faculties or spiritual discovery through a mode of thought independent of sensory experience. They also aim to present their ideas in a manner verifiable by rational discourse and specifically seek precision and clarity in studying the spiritual world, mirroring that obtained by scientists investigating the physical world. This philosophy has its roots in German idealist and mystical philosophies. Steiner chose the term anthroposophy from anthropo for human and sophia for wisdom. And this was to emphasize the philosophy's humanistic orientation. Anthroposophical ideas have been employed in alternative movements in many areas, including education, both in Waldorf schools and in the Camp Hill movement, agriculture, medicine, banking, organizational development, and the arts. The main organization for advocacy of Steiner's ideas, the Anthroposophical Society, is headquarters at the Goetheanum in Dornach, Switzerland. Anthroposophy's supporters include Himmler af Klint, Pulitzer Prize winning and Nobel laureate Saul Bellows, Nobel Prize winner Selma Lagerlof, Andrea
Successful.
Bell, Joseph
Engine
Booties,
disengaged.
Owen Barfield, architect Walter Burley Griffin, Wasily Kondenitzky, Andrea Tartatovsky, Bruno Walter, Wright Livelihood Award winners Sir George Trevelyan, Ibrahim Albuleshil, child psychiatrist Eva Frommel, Fortune magazine editor Russell Davenport, Romova, Lithuanian pagan religious founder Vundias, and former president of Georgia, Zadadev Gamsakhuridi. Albert Schweitzer was a friend of Steiner's and was supportive of his ideas for cultural renewal. The history of religion, Olav Hammer has termed anthroposophy the most important esoteric society in European history. However, many scientists and physicians, including Michael Shermer, Michael Ruse, Edzard Ernest, David Gorski, and Simon Singh, have criticized anthroposophy's applications in the areas of medicine, biology, agriculture, and education to be dangerous and pseudoscientific. So, not without its critics, of course, as anything is. Now, it's an amalgam of the Greek terms that mean human and wisdom. And an early English usage is recorded by Nathan Bailey in 1742 as meaning the knowledge of the nature of man. The first known use of the term anthroposophy occurs within Arbitel de Magica Vertium Sumnium Sapientiae Studium, a book published anonymously in 1575 and attributed to Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. The work describes anthroposophy, as well as theosophy, variously as an understanding of goodness, nature, or human affairs. In 1648, Welsh philosopher Thomas Vaughan published his Anthroposophia Theomagica, or a discourse on the nature of man and his state after death. The term began to appear with some frequency in philosophical works in the mid and late 19th century. In the early part of that century, Ignaz Troxler used the term anthroposophy to refer to philosophy deepened to self-knowledge, which he suggested would allow deeper knowledge of nature as well. He spoke of human nature as a mystical unity of God and world. Emmanuel Hermann Fichte used the term anthroposophy to refer to rigorous human self-knowledge, achievable through comprehension of the human spirit and of the working of God in this spirit. In his 1856 work, Anthropology, the Study of the Human Soul, in 1872, the philosopher of religion Gideon Spricker used the term anthroposophy to refer to self-knowledge that would unite God and world. The true study of the human being is the human being, and philosophy's highest aim is self-knowledge, or anthroposophy. In 1882, the philosopher Robert Zimmerman published a treatise, an outline of anthroposophy, proposal for a system idealism on a realistic basis, proposing that idealistic philosophy should employ logical thinking to extend empirical experience. Steiner attended lectures by Zimmerman at the University of Vienna in the early 1880s, thus at the time of this book's publication. In the early 1900s, Steiner began using the term anthroposophy, i.e. human wisdom, as an alternative to the term theosophy, which is divine wisdom. Central ideas to this spiritual knowledge and freedom. Anthroposophical proponents aim to extend the clarity of the scientific method to phenomenon of a human soul, life, and spiritual experience. Steiner believed this required developing new faculties of objective spiritual perception, which he maintained was still possible for contemporary humans. The step of this process of inner development he identified as consciously achieved imagination, inspiration, and intuition. Steiner believed results of this form of spiritual research should be expressed in a way that can be understood and evaluated on the same basis as the results of natural science. Steiner hoped to form a spiritual movement that would free the individual from any external authority. For Steiner, the human capacity for rational thought would allow individuals to comprehend spiritual research on their own and bypass the danger of dependency on an authority such as himself. Steiner contrasted the anthroposophical approach with both conventional mysticism, which he considered lacking the clarity necessary for exact knowledge, and natural science, which he considered arbitrarily limited to what can be seen, heard, or felt with the outward senses. In Theosophy, Steiner suggested that human beings unite a physical body of substances gathered from and returning to the inorganic world, a life body, also called the etheric body, in common with all living creatures, including plants, a bearer of sentience or consciousness, also called the astral body, in common with all animals, and the ego, which anchors the faculty of self-awareness unique to human beings. Anthroposophy describes a broad evolution of human consciousness. Early stages of human evolution possess an intuitive perception of reality, including a clairvoyant perception of spiritual realities. Humanity has progressively evolved an increasing reliance on intellectual faculties and corresponding loss of intuitive or clairvoyant experiences, which have become atavistic. The increasing intellectualization of consciousness, initially a progressive direction of evolution, has led to an excessive reliance on abstraction and a loss of contact with both natural and spiritual realities. However, to go further require new capabilities that combine the clarity of intellectual thought with the imagination and with consciously achieved inspiration and intuitive insight. Anthroposophy speaks of the reincarnation of the human spirit, that the human being passes between stages of existence, incarnating into an earthly body, living on earth, leaving the body behind, and entering into the spiritual worlds before returning to be born again into a new life on earth. After the death of the physical body, the human spirit recapitulates the past life, perceiving its events as they were experienced by the objects of its actions. A complex transformation takes place between the review of the past life and the preparation for the next. The individual's karmic condition eventually leads to a choice of parents, physical body, disposition, and capacities that provide the challenges and opportunities that further development requires, which includes karmically chosen tasks for the future life. Steiner describes some conditions that determine the interdependence of a person's lives, or karma. The anthroposophical view of evolution considers all animals to have evolved from an early unspecified form. As the least specialized animals, human beings have maintained the closest connection to this archetypal form. Contrary to the Darwinian conception of human evolution, all other animals devolve from this archetype. The spiritual archetype originally created by spiritual beings was devoid of physical substance. Only later did this descend into material existence on Earth. In this view, human evolution has accompanied the Earth's evolution throughout the existence of the Earth. The evolution of man, Steiner says, has consisted in the gradual incarnation of a spiritual being into a material body. It has been a true descent of man from a spiritual world into a world of matter. The evolution of the animal kingdom did not precede, but rather accompanied the process of human incarnation. Man is thus not the end result of the evolution of the animals, but rather is in a certain sense their cause. In the succession of types which appear in the fossil records, the fishes, the reptiles, mammals, and finally fossil remains of man himself, the stages of this process of incarnation are reflected. Anthroposophy adapted Theosophy's complex system of cycles of world development and human evolution. The evolution of the world is said to have occurred in cycles. The first phase of the world consisted only of heat. The second phase, a more active condition, light, and a more condensed gaseous state, separate out from the heat. In the third phase, a fluid state arose, as well as a sounding, forming energy. In the fourth or current phase, solid physical matter first exists. This process is said to have been accompanied by an evolution of consciousness, which led up to the present human culture. As far as ethics go, the anthroposophical view is that good is found in the balance between two polar influences on world and human evolution. These are often described through their mythological embodiments as spiritual adversaries, which endeavor to tempt and corrupt humanity. Lucifer and his counterpart, Ahriman, who you guys may remember us talking about last night, Ahriman or Manu, the destructive spirit of Zoroastrianism. So Lucifer and his counterpart Ahriman, these beings have both positive and negative aspects. Lucifer is the light spirit, which plays on human pride and offers the illusion of divinity, but also motivates creativity, and spirituality. Ahriman is the dark spirit that tempts humans to deny their link with divinity and to live entirely on the material plane. But that also stimulates intellectuality and technology.
Under attack.
Both figures exert a negative effect on humanity and their influence becomes misplaced or one-sided. Yet their influences are necessary for human freedom to unfold. Each human being has the task to find a balance between these opposing influences, and each is helped in this task by the mediation of the representatives of humanity, also known as the Christ being, a spiritual entity who stands between and harmonizes the two extremes. So the application of anthroposophy to practical fields include the Steiner Waldorf education. This is a movement with over 1,000 Steiner Waldorf schools. The latter name stems from the first such school, located in 60 countries. The great majority of these are private schools. 16 of the schools have been affiliated with the United Nations UNESCO-associated school project network, which sponsors education projects to foster improved quality of education around the world. Waldorf schools receive full or partial government funding in some European nations, Australia, and in parts of the United States, as Waldorf method public and charter schools, and in Canada. Schools have been founded in a variety of fields. For example, in the favelas of Sao Paulo, to the wealthy suburbs of major cities. In India, Egypt, Australia, the Netherlands, Mexico, and South Africa. Though most of the early Waldorf schools were teacher-founded, the schools today are usually initiated and later supported by the parent community. Waldorf schools are among the most visible anthroposophical institutions. There's also biodiversity agriculture, and that is the first intentional form of organic farming. It began in 1924 when Rudolf Steiner gave a series of lectures published in English in the Agricultural Reviews. Steiner is considered one of the founders of the modern organic farming movement. So, next time you buy anything organic, Rudolf Steiner.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Absolutely. There's also anthroposophical medicine. Steiner did a series of lectures to physicians and journalists. Out of these grew an alternative medical movement intended to extend the knowledge gained through the methods of the natural sciences and age with insights from the spiritual sciences. This movement now includes hundreds of medical chiefly in Europe and America. It has its own clinics, hospitals, and schools. One of the most studied applications is the use of mistletoe extracts in cancer treatment. The research has found no evidence of that. There's also special education services in 1922. Ida Wegman founded an anthroposophical center for special education. The Sonnenhof in Switzerland. In 1940, Paul Cleary founded the Camp Hill movement in Scotland. The latter in particular is spread widely, and there are now over 100 Camp Hill communities and other anthroposophical children and adults in special care. Carl Koenig, Thomas Wilhes, and others have written extensively on the ideas underlying special education. There's also agriculture. Steiner designed and 13 buildings, including an organic expressionist architectural style. Foremost among these are his signs for the two Northenian buildings born in Switzerland. Shao's built by later generations of anthroposophic architects. Architects who have been strongly influenced by the Northenian style include Emir Nakavets in Hungary, Hans Schutterau and Giotto Elliott in Germany, Eric Asmussen in Switzerland, Kenji Yamada in Japan, Thomas Rayon, Anton Bonus, and Max Verhoeven in the Netherlands, Christopher Day and Camp Hill architects in Kelly Thompson and Rose in America, Dennis Bowman in Canada, and Walter Burley Griffin and George Burgess in Australia. IGN House in Amsterdam is a contemporary building by an anthroposophical architect, which has received awards for its ecological design and approach to a self-sustaining ecology as an autonomous building, an example of sustainable architecture. So this guy was really ahead of his time. Consider that self-sustaining ecology, sustainable architecture, farming, very, very much ahead of its time. Very much ahead of its time. There was also a performance art speech music called Eurythmy, expressing art movement for receivers in the early 20th century. It's used in education in Waldorf schools and is part of the medicine claimed for therapeutic purposes.
Interesting, really interesting.
Yeah, it looks like it was conceived of in 1911 when a widow brought her young daughter who was interested in movement dance to Austria and Glasgow and Manchester. A particular piece of loss of father was necessary. Steiner's advice was sought. He suggested Piccolo as preparation for this. She began to study to explore the human step, to contemplate movement implicit in Greek sculpture and dance, and find movement that express spoken sentences using the sound of speech. Soon, a number of the other young people became interested in this form of expressive movement. During these years, Steiner was writing a new drama each year for performance at the Anthroposophical Society's summer gatherings. Between the beginning of 1912, he began to incorporate the new art of movement into these dramas. When the Society decided to build an artistic center in Dornach, Switzerland, this later became known as the Gothenarium. A small stage group began work and offered weekly performances of the developing art. Marie Steiner von Sievers, Steiner's wife, who was a trained actress and speech artist, was given responsibility for training and directing this ensemble. The first Eurythmy ensemble went on tour in 1990, performing across Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Germany. And Steiner saw this as a unique expression of the anthroposophical impulse. It is the task of the anthroposophy to bring a depth, wider vision, and a living spirit to perform. And the art of Eurythmy could only grow out of the soul of anthroposophy, could only receive its inspiration through a purely anthroposophical conception. It's a new form of dance and art that they came up with. I do want to show you guys a picture of this Gotharium because, of course, he did design it and it was part of his anthroposophical architecture. Oh, Joseph Aldrin for $1.99. Thank you, Joseph Aldrin. Much appreciated. Name your god and bleed the freak. I don't know what that means. I never know what that means. Confounds me.
No.
Confounded. I have no idea. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know what that is.
I think he throws together words sometimes too.
So there we go.
Randomly.
This is the building designed by Steiner.
Oh, great.
Beautiful building. Seems like a very remarkable man. I'm looking forward to delving deeper into his life. See, just his philosophy he hooked up was very fascinating in and of itself. It's touched on so many different areas of research and study, from agricultural to architecture. So I'm interested to learn more about him. He was writing dramas for these summer performances, so man of many hats, it seems.
This building reminds you of, where you can look at the stars.
An observatory?
Observatory, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's the dome shape.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah, the dome. Yeah. It's a cool building, though. It's interesting.
So, around the world today, there are a number of banks, companies, charities, and schools for developing cooperative forms of business using Steiner's ideas about economic associations, aiming at harmonious and socially responsible roles in the world economy. The first anthroposophical bank was the, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, the Gemeinschaftsbank für Leben und Schaden in Bochum, Germany, founded in 1974. Socially responsible banks found out of anthroposophy in the English-speaking world, including the Triodos Bank, founded in 1980 and active in the UK, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Spain, and France. The Cultural Spare Bank dates from 1982, when a group of Norwegian anthroposophists began an initiative for ethical banking, but only began to operate as a savings bank in Norway in the late 90s. La Nef in France and RSF Social Finance in San Francisco are other examples. Harvard Business School historian Jeffrey Jones traced the considerable impact of both Steiner and later anthroposophical entrepreneurs had on the creation of many businesses in organic food, ecological architecture, and sustainable finance. So that's a whole school of finance there that I'm not familiar with, but definitely would be interesting to learn more about. See what these ideas are relating to world economies. So Bernard Livengood, a psychiatrist, founded a new method of individual and institutional development orientated towards humanizing organizations and linked with Steiner's ideas of the threefold social order. This work is represented by the NPI Institute for the Organizational Development in the Netherlands and sister organizations in many other countries. Various forms of biographic and counseling work have been developed on the basis of anthroposophy. Speech and drama as well. There are also anthroposophical movements to renew speech and drama, the most important of which are based on the works of Maria Steiner von Sievers, speech formation, also known as creative speech, and the Chekhov, originated by Michael Chekhov, nephew of Anthroposophic painting, a style inspired by Rudolf Steiner, featured prominently in the first Gotheniums cupola. The techniques frequently begin by filling the surface to be painted with color, out of which forms are gradually developed, often images with symbolic spiritual significance. Paints that allow for many transparent layers are preferred, and often these are derived from plant materials. Rudolf Steiner appointed the English sculptor Edith Marion as head of the School of Fine Arts at the Goethenarium. Together they carved the 9-meter-tall sculpture, the representative of man, which is on display at the Goethenarium. So let me see, I believe we do have a picture of this statue that Rudolf Steiner helped carve. So not only is he writing dramas, but he's helping to carve statues, he's coming up with philosophies.
Everywhere.
Very interesting individual.
Flight assist.
It's a small statue, a small picture of the statue, rather.
Flight assist.
Representative of humanity.
Flight assist on. Landing gear
Statue.
deployed.
Yes. Yes, it's a statue.
Docking successful.
Statue.
Engines disengaged.
Other applications also include phenomenological approaches to science. This concerns the natural philosophy of Goethe. There was a new approach to painting and sculpture, and the John Wilkes Foundation like flow forms, a sculptural form that guides water into rhythmic movements for the purpose of creation. For a period after World War I, Steiner was extremely active and well known in Germany, in part because he lectured widely proposing social reforms. Steiner was a sharp critic of nationalism, which he saw as outdated, and a proponent of achieving social solidarity through individual freedoms. A petition proposed a radical change in the German constitution and expressed his basic social ideas. It was widely circulated. His main book on social reform is called Towards Social Renewal. Anthroposophy continues to aim at reforming society through maintaining and strengthening the independence of the spheres of culture life, human rights, and the economy. It emphasizes a particular ideal in each of these three realms of society: liberty in cultural life, equality of rights and the sphere of legislation, and fraternity in the economic sphere. There's also an esoteric path, the path of spiritual development. And according to Steiner, a real spiritual world exists, evolving along with the material one. Steiner held that the spiritual world can be researched in the right circumstances through direct experience by persons practicing rigorous forms of ethical and cognitive self-discipline. Steiner describes many exercises he had said were suited to strengthening such self-discipline. The most complete exposition of these is found in his book, How to Know Higher Worlds. The aim of these exercises is to develop higher levels of consciousness through meditation and observation. Details about the spiritual world, Steiner suggested, could on such a basis be discovered and reported, though no more infallibly than the results of natural science. Anthroposophy is the path of knowledge to guide the spiritual in the human being and to the spiritual in the universe. Anthroposophists are those who experience as an essential need of life certain questions on the nature of the human being in the universe, just as one experiences hunger and thirst. Steiner regarded his research report as being important aids to others seeking to enter into spiritual experience. He suggested that a combination of spiritual exercises, for example, concentrating on an object such as a seed, moral development, control of thought, feelings, and will combined with openness, tolerance, and flexibility, and familiarity with other spiritual researchers' results would best further an individual's spiritual development. He consistently emphasized that any inner spiritual practice should be undertaken in such a way as not to interfere with one's responsibilities in outer life. Steiner distinguished between what he considered were true and false paths of spiritual investigation. In anthroposophy, artistic expression is also treated as a potentially valuable bridge between spiritual and material reality. A person seeking inner development must first of all make the attempt to give up certain formerly held inclinations. Then, new inclinations must be acquired by constantly holding the thought of such inclinations, virtues, or characteristics in one's mind. They must be so incorporated into one's being that the person becomes enabled to alter his soul by his own willpower. This must be tried as objectively as a chemical might be tested in an experiment. A person who has never endeavored to change his soul, who has never made the initial decision to develop the qualities of endurance, steadfastness, and calm logical thinking, or a person who has had such decisions but has given up because he did not succeed in a week, a month, a year, or a decade, will never conclude anything inwardly about these truths. Rudolf Steiner on the inner life. Steiner stated prerequisites to beginning on the spiritual path, including a willingness to take up serious cognitive studies, a respect for factual evidence, and a responsible attitude. Central to progress on the path itself is a harmonious cultivation of the following qualities: control over one's own thinking, control over one's own will, composure, positivity, and impartiality. Steiner sees meditation as a concentration and enhancement of the power of thought. By focusing consciously on idea, feeling, or intention, the meditating seeks to arrive at pure thinking, a state exemplified by, but not confined to, pure mathematics. In Steiner's view, conventional sensory material knowledge is achieved through relating perception and concepts. The anthroposophic path of esoteric training articulates three further stages of supersensory knowledge, which do not necessarily follow strict sequentially in any single individual's spiritual progress. By focusing on symbolic patterns, images, and poetic mantras, the meditator can achieve consciously directed imaginations that allow sensory phenomenon to appear as the expression of underlying beings of a soul spiritual nature. By transcending such imaginative pictures, the meditant can become conscious of the meditative activity itself, which leads to experiences of expression of soul spiritual beings unmediated by sensory phenomenon or qualities. Steiner calls this stage inspiration. And by intensifying the will forces through exercises such as chronologically reversed review of the day's events, the meditator can then achieve a further stage of inner independence from sensory experience, leading to direct contact and even union with spiritual beings, intuition, without a loss of individual awareness. Steiner described numerous exercises he believed would bring spiritual development. Other anthroposophists have added many others. The central principle is that for every step in spiritual perception, 3 steps are to be taken in moral development. According to Steiner, moral development reveals the extent to which one has achieved control over one's own inner life and can exercise it in harmony with the spiritual life of other people. It shows the real progress in spiritual development, the fruits of which are given in spiritual perception. It also guarantees the capacity to distinguish between false perceptions or illusions, which are possible in perceptions of both the outer world and inner world, and true perceptions, i.e., the capacity to distinguish in any perception between the influence of subjective elements, i.e., viewpoints, and objective reality. So, we are talking about, this is very progressive.
Ship released. Engines engaged. Landing gear retracted.
Absolutely.
All new stuff.
Joseph Old, Nancy Pete, Ball. Not Ball.
What am I missing here? Ah. You guys don't forget to show Pete some love. Give this stream a like. Got 46 watching, only 32 thumbs up. Just a click. Click.
So
Or
Steiner
share
built
it out.
upon
Please share it out too, because YouTube's not helping us any. Sorry, Pete. Go ahead.
Steiner built upon Goethe's concept of an imaginative power capable of synthesizing the sense perceptible from a thing, an image from its outer appearance, and the concept we have of the thing, an image of its inner structure or nature. Steiner added to this the conception that a further step in the development of thinking is possible when the thinker observes his or her own thought process. The organ of observation and the observed thought process are then identical, so that the condition thus arrived at is simultaneously one of perception through thinking and one of thought through perception. Thus, in Steiner's view, we can overcome the subject-object divide through interactivity, even though all human experience begins by being conditioned by it. In this connection, Steiner examines the step from thinking determined by our outer impressions to what he calls sense-free thinking. He characterizes thoughts he considers without sensory content, such as mathematical or logical thoughts, as free deeds. Steiner believed that he had thus located the origin of free will in our thinking, and in particular in sense-free thinking. Some of the epistemic basis for Steiner's later anthroposophical work is contained in the seminal work Philosophy of Freedom. In his early works, Steiner sought to overcome what he perceived was the dualism of Cartesian idealism and Kantian subjectivism by developing Goethe's concept of the human being as a natural, supernatural entity that is natural in the humanity is a product of nature, supernatural in that through our conceptual powers we extend nature's realm, allowing it to achieve a reflective capacity in us as philosophy, art, and science. Steiner was one of the first European philosophers to overcome the subject-object split in Western thought. Though not well known among philosophers, his philosophical work was taken up by Owen Barfield, and through him influenced the Inklings, an Oxford group of Christian writers that included J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. Christian and Jewish mystical thought have also influenced the development of anthroposophy. Steiner believed in the possibility of applying the clarity of scientific thinking to the spiritual experience, which he saw as deriving from an objectively existing spiritual world. Steiner identifies mathematics, which attains certainty through thinking itself, thus through inner experience rather than empirical observation, as the basis for his epistemological of superior experience. The epistemology of spiritual experience.
Good job.
Thank you. Now, Steiner's writings, though appreciative of all religions and cultural developments, emphasizes Western tradition as having evolved to meet contemporary needs. He describes Christ and his mission on earth of bringing individuated consciousness as having a particularly important place in human evolution, whereby Christianity has evolved out of previous religions. The being which manifests in Christianity also manifests in all faith and religions, and each religion is valid and true for the time and cultural context in which it was born. And all historical forms of Christianity need to be transformed considerably to meet the continuing evolution of humanity. Spiritual science does not want to usurp the place of Christianity. On the contrary, it would like to be instrumental in making Christianity understood. Thus, it becomes clear to us through spiritual science that the being whom we call Christ is to be recognized as the center of life on earth, that the Christian religion is the ultimate religion for the earth's whole future. Spiritual science shows us particularly that pre-Christian religions outgrew their one-sidedness and come together in the Christian faith. It is not the desire of spiritual science to set something else in the place of Christianity. Rather, it wants to contribute to a deeper, more heartfelt understanding of Christianity. Thus, anthroposophy considers there to be a being who unifies all religions and who is not represented by any particular religious faith. This being is, according to Steiner, not only the redeemer of the fall of paradise, but also the unique pivot and meaning of Earth's evolutionary process and of human history. To describe this being, Steiner periodically used the terms such as the representative of humanity or the good spirit, rather than any denominational term. Now, Steiner's views of Christianity diverge from conventional Christian thought in key places and include Gnostic elements. One central point of divergence is Steiner's view on reincarnation and karma. Steiner differentiated three contemporary paths by which he believed it is possible to arrive at Christ. Through heartfelt experiences of the Gospels, Steiner described this as the historically dominant path, but becoming less important in the future. Through inner experiences of a spiritual reality, this Steiner regarded as increasingly the path of spiritual or religious seekers today. And through initiatory experiences whereby the reality of Christ's death and resurrection are experienced, Steiner believed that this is the path people will increasingly take. Steiner also believed that there were two different Jesus children involved in the incarnation of Christ. One child descended from Solomon, as is described in the Gospel of Matthew, the other from Nathan, as described in the Gospel of Luke. The genealogies given in the two Gospels diverge some 30 generations before Jesus' birth, and Jesus was a common name in biblical times. His view of the second coming of Christ is also unusual. He suggested this would not be a physical reappearance, but that the Christ being would become manifest in non-physical form, visible to spiritual vision and apparent in community life to an increasing number of peoples, beginning around the year 1933. He emphasized his belief that in the future, humanity would need to be able to recognize the spirit of love in all its genuine forms, regardless of what name would be used to describe this being. He also warned the traditional name of Christ might be misused, and the true essence of this being of love ignored. Rudolf Steiner wrote and lectured on Judaism and Jewish issues over much of his adult life. He was a fierce opponent of anti-Semitism, but asserted there was no justification for the existence of Judaism in the modern world, a radical assimilationist perspective, which he saw the Jews completely integrating into larger society. He also supported Emile Zola's position in the Dreyfus Affair. Steiner emphasized Judaism's central importance to the constitution of the modern era in the West, but suggested that to appreciate the spirituality of the future, it would need to overcome its tendency towards abstraction. Later in his life, Steiner was accused by the Nazis of being a Jew. And they called his anthroposophy, Hitler called it Jewish methods. The anthroposophical institutions in Germany were banned during Nazi rule, and several anthroposophists sent to concentration camps. Important early anthroposophists who were Jewish included two central members on the executive board of the precursors to the modern Anthroposophical Society, and Karl Koenig, the founder of the Camp Hill movement who had converted to Christianity. Martin Buber and Hugo Bergman, who viewed Steiner's social ideas as the solution to the Arab-Jewish conflict, were also influenced by anthroposophy. There are numerous anthroposophical organizations in Israel, including the Anthroposophical Kibbutz Hartuf, founded by Yeshaya ben Ahron, 40 Waldorf kindergartens and 17 Waldorf schools as of 2018. And a number of these organizations are striving to foster positive relationships between the Arab and Jewish populations. The Hardorf-Waldorf School includes both Jewish and Arab faculty and students and has extensive contact with the surrounding Arab communities, while the first joint Arab-Jewish kindergarten was a Waldorf program in Hilfa near Haifa. Towards the end of Steiner's life, a group of theological students, primarily Lutheran with some Roman Catholic members, approached Steiner for help in reviving Christianity, in particular to bridge the widening gulf between modern science and the world of spirit. They approached a notable Lutheran pastor, Frederick Riddlemeyer, who was already working with Steiner's ideas, to join their efforts. Out of their cooperative endeavor, the movement for religious renewal, now generally known as the Christian Community, was born. Steiner emphasized that he considered this movement and his role in creating it to be independent of his anthroposophical work, as he wished anthroposophy to be independent of any particular religion or religious denomination. Now, he had tons of supporters, Pulitzer Prize winners, Nobel laureates, Nobel Prize winners. and we went through a list of them earlier. And Steiner studied natural sciences at the Vienna Technical University at the undergraduate level. His doctorate was in epistemology. In his mature work, when he did refer to science, it was often presented phenomenologically, or Goethean science, as an alternative to what he considered the materialistic science of his contemporaries. Steiner's primary interest was applying the methodology of science to the realms of inner experience and the spiritual worlds. His appreciation that the essence of science is its method of inquiry is immutable on his forces. And Steiner called anthroposophy the science of the mind, cultural, spiritual science. The term generally used, there's a German word I'm not going to be able to pronounce, but it's like Geist und Wissenschaft. Generally used in German to refer to humanities and social sciences. Now, whether this is a sufficient basis for anthroposophy to be considered a spiritual science has been a matter of controversy, as Frida Easton explained in her study of schools. Whether one accepts anthroposophy as a science depends on whether one accepts Steiner's interpretation of science that extends the consciousness and capacity of human beings to experience the inner spiritual world. Sven Oven Hansen has disputed anthroposophy's claims to a scientific basis, stating that its ideas are not empirically derived and neither reproducible nor testable. Carla Willman points out that, as on its own terms, anthroposophic methodology offers no possibility of being falsified except through its own procedures of spiritual investigation. No intersubjective validation is possible by conventional scientific methods. Thus, it cannot stand up to empiricist critics. Peter Schneider describes its objections as untenable, asserting that if non-sensory, non-physical realms exist, then, according to Steiner, the experience of pure thinking possible within the normal realm of consciousness would already be experiences of that, and it would be impossible to exclude the possibility of empirically grounded experiences of other supersensory content. Olaf Hammer suggests that anthroposophy carries scientism to lengths unparalleled in any other esoteric position, due to its dependence upon claims of clairvoyant experience. It's subsuming natural science under spiritual science. Hammer also asserts the development of what she calls fringe sciences, such as anthroposophic medicine and biodynamic agriculture, are justified partly on the basis of ethical and ecological values they promote, rather than on a purely scientific basis. Though Steiner saw that spiritual vision itself is difficult for others to achieve, he recommended open-mindedly exploring and rationally testing the results of such research. He also urged others to follow a spiritual training that would allow them to directly to apply his methods to achieve comparable results. Anthony Storr stated about Rudolf Steiner's anthroposophy: his belief system is so eccentric, so unsupported by evidence, so manifestly bizarre, that rational skeptics are bound to consider it delusional. But whereas Einstein's way of perceiving the world by thought became confined by experiment and mathematical proof, Steiner remained intensely subjective and insusceptible of objective confirmation. As an explicitly spiritual movement, anthroposophy has sometimes been called a religious philosophy. In 1998, People for Legal and Non-Sectarian Schools started a lawsuit alleging that anthroposophy is a religion for Establishment Clause purposes, and therefore several California school districts should not be chartering Waldorf schools. The lawsuit was dismissed in 2012 for failure to show that anthroposophy was a religion. In 2000, a French court ruled that a government minister's description of anthroposophy as a cult was defamatory. Anthroposophy ideas have been criticized from both sides in the race debate. From the 30s on, National Socialist ideologues attacked the anthroposophical worldview as being opposed to the racist and nationalistic principles of the Nazi Party. Anthroposophy considered blood, race, and folk as primitive instincts that must be overcome. An academic analysis of the educational approach noted that a naive version of the evolution of consciousness, a theory foundational to both Steiner's anthroposophy and Waldorf education, sometimes places one race below another in one or another dimension of development. In response to such critiques, the Anthroposophic Society in America published a statement of the United States. We explicitly reject any racial theory that may be constructed to be part of Rudolf Steiner's writings. the Anthroposophical Society in America is an open public society that rejects any purported spiritual or scientific belief, on the basis of which most one race is justified. So again, very forward-thinking philosophy.
Signing off.
Remember to see this very progressive ideology.
Frameshift drive charging.
She thought it racist.
What's
But
that?
I said I'm surprised he thought it racist, but I guess if he's putting one race in front of the other, right? Yeah.
I think in terms of spiritual development, he would say
Yeah.
the Western world was more advanced than other places. But again, that's people twisting his work into
Sure.
raciality.
Exactly.
But yeah, he ran into trouble in Germany. It's not even surprising.
Not really.
Joseph Walter for Goblin, I love you, Pete, and always amused. Fart poop fart. Well, thank you, Joseph Walter. Much
Wasn't
appreciated.
that nice?
Yeah, I'm not going bald. I shaved my head and it all came back, so we're good. Look at that. Look at that. I'm not going to deny that it's thinner in the front than I'd like,
Well, your
But it's
dad's
always-
got
but it's always been like that.
your dad's got a full set of hair, right?
Yeah, everybody in my family has
He ain't going bald then.
that.
See?
Yeah, everybody in my family has
Yeah, he ain't going bald.
that. Both my grandfathers had their hair
Yeah.
well into their 80s.
Yeah, you ain't going bald.
I just have thin hair. I just have
That's
thin hair
okay.
right in the front. It's just thin up there. Very thick in the back, a little thin in the front, but it's not going anywhere. I'm not waking up with hair on the pillow or anything.
Drains ain't stopped up. That's good. That's good.
No, Mary, no receding hairline here. My hairline's always been the same. Hey, Mecca, how you doing?
Hey.
There she is. Hey, Mecca.
Sorry, busy as always.
Oh, that's how it goes. That's how it goes.
That's a good thing, though.
Maybe.
Sometimes.
So yeah, we've just been sitting here talking about the anthroposophy philosophy of Rudolf Steiner. Very progressive philosophy. Very forward-thinking for its time. And even for today's time, I think it's very forward-thinking. I'm definitely interested in reading more about this, learning more about some of these ideas. Because so far, the thing seems pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's something new, too, which is nice.
Well, it's new to us.
Yeah.
Nothing new about it. It's been around for
No.
well,
That's what I mean.
100 years or so.
Yeah. That's what I meant. I mean, new to us. So.
I found my all-seeing eye.
Oh, there you go.
It's in
Aw,
gold.
it's looking at us, y'all. It's
It's
looking at
actually
you guys.
three-dimensional.
It's looking at you guys in the chat.
So that's one of them. My other one. I have another one here. There's only a few bits of gold that I have left from. We have this
Oh,
one.
yeah.
It's kind of got a filigree in the background.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
On the back, it's. I don't know why it's got that weird pattern, but yeah.
Not cool.
I found my diamond pyramid that I still have. I've had for like 20 years now.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
A lot of little diamonds.
Becca is in the Illuminati. It's confirmed now.
Mech Illuminati.
Yep. She's got her pyramid diamond
Fucking
necklace.
wish. Yeah.
You know? Nobody would spend that much on a diamond necklace unless they were actually in the Illuminati. I was always surprised that the evil eye has lasted. You know? You
Yeah.
still see it on, I mean, it's on jewelry, and I mean, it's. I tell you, when I lived in Mexico, I mean, it's everywhere.
Well, I've got a
Everywhere.
whole bracelet of them. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
in Vegas, there's a lot of Hispanic women there too, and they have it on everything.
Oh, yeah, man. They were all about it when I lived in Mexico. I mean, everywhere.
So, all evil eye
Mhm.
bracelet.
But of course, they had a big thing about it, too. They had a thing
This
about
is
envy.
sterling.
Envy. You know, you had to burn anti-envy candles there because if you got anything new, even a new pair of shoes, What is the envy candle for? You know, oh, you got new shoes. Well, really? Yeah, really. So envy was a big thing in Mexico. At least in Reynosa, where I lived, it was. You always seen an evil eye, or the evil eye? What is it? No.
I'm gonna have to start wearing mine.
Yeah, I probably should too. The way my look's been going this year. Right? Damn 2020. So over it. Go away. Go away, 2020. Go away. He was telling us really how he skipped work.
Don't do that.
Well, the kids kept him up all night.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've seen them once still up at God 30.
Now, I'm gonna check out. We're gonna check out this site together.
Okay.
I'll take a look at it here. This is anthroposophy.org. This is the home of the Anthroposophical Society here in America. Explore humanity's past, illuminate your own. The fall conference, October 9th, 10th, and 11th. Looks like it's online. What we do, what do you do? Insight. Seeing the whole human being in our complex social, biological, planetary, and cosmic context, anthroposophy can open up the field of creative potential and action for each of us. This includes personal growth and health, capacities, social and professional service, and engagement. Oh, webinars, events, and other resources for your path.
Okay.
Inspiration. Inspired by the works of Rudolf Steiner, hundreds of thousands of individuals worldwide are finding inspiration for meaningful choices in daily living. Parenting and community, for healing the earth, for artistic and scientific work, and for building a new culture of freedom, fairness, and solidarity. Learn more about inspiring initiatives and individuals with values like yours. Okay. And community. Anthroposophy's far-reaching view of personal development and human evolution gives a wide context for today's widespread egotism. We each need to gain inner freedom and self-reliance in order to be change agents and conveyors of a healthy future civilization, one where the whole community and the individual are seen and valued by each other. Okay. General Secretary, present events, and beat of daily news have kept me in a state of rawness. No one I've spoken to is immune from suffering. How can we comprehend what is folding, maybe even unraveling in so many dimensions? So it looks like they're really here to kind of provide you with a new way of thinking.
Sure. It's so pretty. That path is pretty. All the trees. Peaceful.
Let's learn some more here.
Okay.
Anthroposophy on being human. The word anthroposophy originally points to the wisdom of Sophia that is woven into development as human beings, anthropos. Rudolf Steiner described it as simply the consciousness of our human situation, which becomes a path from the mind and spirit in the human being to the mind and spirit in the cosmos. He added that it arises as a need of the heart. As a spiritual path, it is unique in being research-based and invitation to shared inquiry, rather than a revelation to be believed. At the same time, Steiner and anthroposophy are increasingly well known for applications in practical life. Complementary medicine, Waldorf education, biodynamic farming, Camp Hill communities centered around special needs, arts and art therapies, and far-reaching social innovations. Our sister site, rudolfsteiner.org, presents the ongoing research and applications in detail. Programs and groups can introduce you. As big as humanity itself, anthroposophy helps us renew our confidence in being human. So what do we got? We got local groups. We got local groups here. You can get involved. Programs online, insightful webinars.
You got one by you?
Let's see. Let's see if they got one in Philly. I'm fairly certain they probably have one in Philly.
Yeah. Check Orlando too.
Are you going to the cult meetings?
Why not?
All right, here's a list of branches. let's see. There's one in Kimberton, PA.
Okay, is that far?
I've never heard of it. Kimberton Township, Chester County, Pennsylvania. So,
Do you know where that is?
yeah, I know where Chester County is. East Pikeland Township in Chester County. Yeah, that's a hike.
Is it?
It's a bit of a hike. Let me see if there's anything in Florida. Largo, Florida.
Oh, Largo's by Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa Bay Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks they've got one in Alaska, everybody, Anchorage.
Alaska. So,
Yeah.
so the only one in Florida is in Largo?
Only one in Florida is Largo.
Probably
There's
right.
two in California, Santa Cruz and San Francisco.
The one in Florida there's probably right by the Church of Scientology. Not far from it, at least.
Yeah, very fascinating stuff here. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one tonight. I think this is very, for me, this is very eye-opening because I've never heard of this until yesterday.
Right?
You know, we were talking about Ahriman and Night Gods, and that's the reason this came up. So, you know, this is a brand new one for me, and I tell you, I'm curious. I'm curious to learn more.
It's always nice when you can stumble.
Brian the Observer, Largo is a hole.
It is a hole. He's right. It's a hole. As a matter of fact, you can find any place, and your point of reference would be a topless bar.
Hope we can be of service.
Okay, there's like a topless bar. There's many topless bars as there are convenience stores.
Landing authorized.
So anytime you want to know where something is, you just tell them whatever topless bar it's by, and of course every guy's gonna know where it's at.
Yeah, but back to esoteric philosophy here, and not topless bars in Florida. This is Anglo America.
I'm
to be
sorry.
Yeah, I hope that you out there in the chat, and those of you watching or listening after the fact, find yourself as curious about this as I do. I know this isn't one of the more, because I mean, we're going to talk about UFOs or reptilians tonight. It's not one of these exciting, sexy topics that we get into here.
Yes, I do. I enjoyed it.
But I think this is a very enjoyable, eye-opening experience for me. Something I've never heard of before, something I'm interested to get into and learn about. And I'm looking forward to learning more about it. Paul Corpus Christi, yes, Pennsylvania is beautiful in many parts. Lots of mystery out there. Pennsylvania is a beautiful state.
Ship is down. You are cleared to disembark.
The farthest west I've ever been in Pennsylvania is State College. So I've never been to Erie or anything like that. Yeah, so State College is the farthest west I've ever gone. Pennsylvania's beautiful drive through.
Yeah, I hear it. I hear it
It
is.
really is. It's like, it is forested and mountainous, and it is a damn beautiful state.
My mother's been there. She said it's beautiful, yeah.
Fishing Pro 64, this is a good show, Pete. Love the new stuff. Thank you so much, Fishing Pro 64. Really do appreciate that. Trying to start on time and stay on topic. I think that's a big key right here. Start on time and stay on topic. It's working for me.
Kicking ass, Pete.
Working for me here. So I hope you guys will consider looking into this. I mean, you can find the. I'll link the website in the chat if you guys are more interested in learning about anthroposophy yourselves.
Thanks, Pete.
You know, if you want to get involved with the groups or check it out. Poopins, $10 super sticker. Thank you so much, Poopins. Oh, it's a little doggy squeezing a heart.
Oh.
Thank you, Poopins. That's really nice of you. I really do appreciate that. Very generous. Thanks so much. And there's a link, everybody, to anthroposophy.org. Phantom Menace, we don't talk about current events, but thank you.
Phantom Menace, you know that.
Yeah, you should be well aware of that by now. We're not sitting here talking
Yeah.
about current events. I don't care about current events. I don't watch the news. I don't care anymore.
You've been part of the family forever. You know better. No hard head.
Exciting and sexy is always good. You do well, brother. Thank you, Paul Corpus Christi. Yeah. I like to keep it sexy. Reptilians is sexy.
That's right.
UFOs is sexy.
Jiggity.
Esoteric philosophy can be a little dull sometimes. I understand that. You know, we're talking about some of these very heady concepts in some cases. You know, So yeah, it can be. If you're not into it, it can be a bit of a snore. I'll tell you. Most of these people I know in the world don't want to hear me talk about esoteric philosophy. You know, in my personal life. You know, they're not going to sit around my drinking buddies and be like, "Hey guys, are you familiar with the work of Rudolf Steiner and anthroposophy? Oh, let me tell you all about it." They're going to be like, "Shut the fuck up."
You can see it. A lot of I'll be right back, right? Oh, hold that thought. I'll be right back.
All right, everybody. Well, I am out of topic, and we are out of time. So I'm going to wrap it up about 15 minutes early tonight because I'd rather do that than waste your time sitting here talking about absolute nonsense for the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I do appreciate you guys being here tonight. Thank you for sticking around. Even though I know this isn't one of our sexy topics, but yeah. TWTG content, UFOs and aliens are so sexy. Yeah, there's nothing sexier than an anal probing or so I've been told.
Oh yeah.
Nothing sexier than that. But listen here, folks. I really want to thank you for being here tonight. I hope you did enjoy this one. I enjoyed it myself. I thought it was very good. Very good topic, very interesting topic, very eye-opening topic. Something I'm not familiar with, so I definitely want to look deeper into.
Got another one?
Ship coupling is engaged. You may leave when ready.
Definitely check that out. So, let me say thank you again, one and all, for being here. Do appreciate it. I want to say thank you to Supermaster Juice, Joseph Alden, and Poopins. Generous super chats and stickers, they're much appreciated. Never expected, but always. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to the panel for being here tonight. I also want to suggest you get in the description of this video. We will find links to my Twitter and my email if you want to drop me a line. If there's a topic you want me to cover here on High Strangeness, or if you've got a scary story to share with me, I'd love to make a video about it. I used to do a whole series called State of Fear, where I took your local stories and turned them into videos about various urban legends. Oh, my computer just crashed. Sorry, Mary. Sorry to hear that. But again, Stash is looking good. Thank you, Christian Universe. Thank you very much.
Intern Tom Selleck.
So yeah, check out the description. Also find links to everybody else's channel on there. Don't hesitate to subscribe to them and here as well. We do this every night at 11 p.m. Various topics of the strange and weird. You can find us here 7 nights a week. So I hope you'll join us. Late night, the #1 late night paranormal podcast on YouTube, because as far as I know, we are the only late night paranormal podcast on YouTube. So, as we do, this has been the Creepy Little Bit Live, and you've been listening to High Strangeness, the #1 late night paranormal podcast on YouTube. I've been your host, Pete, and with me tonight were Tina Zomazewski and Mecha Random 42. Until tomorrow night, everybody, stay creeped out.
successful.